Maribel of Magicos wasn't the kind of princess who normally went on adventures. For one thing, she didn't have a wicked stepmother who made her work all the time, or plotted to kill her out of envy of her beauty. Her stepmother, who was actually very nice, treated Princess Maribel exactly the same way she treated her other royal children. Also, Maribel wasn't the youngest and most beautiful of three sisters. She was the oldest girl in her family. Her twin brother Marco was only 1 minute older. And while she was pretty enough, she had ordinary brown hair and freckles, not the golden curls or raven tresses that the more adventure-prone princesses always seemed to have. Maribel's parents knew only one fairy socially, and she was not the type to put a curse on a baby, to prick her finger on a spinning wheel, or to drop toads from her mouth when she spoke. In any case, this fairy had been properly invited to the twins' christening, and had given each baby a lumpy wool blanket she had crocheted herself. It was highly unlikely that Maribel would be captured by a dragon and rescued by a prince, or that her hand would be given in marriage as a reward. Her father, King Matthew, would probably grant her hand to the first prince who asked for it, as long as he seemed nice, instead of demanding that his new son-in-law be a dragon slayer. The few dragons left in Magicos lived in a wildlife preserve. Visitors sometimes toasted marshmallows in their fiery breath, even though signs sternly cautioned people, "Stay in carriages, not responsible for injury caused by magical beasts." The survivors would bring home toy dragons wearing little shirts that said things like, "My parents went to the Magicos Wildlife Park, and all they got me was this dragon." Moreover, the Book of Fate, which told important Magicians what their futures held, didn't say a word about Princess Maribel. Her family's pages mostly talked about the Chosen One, her twin brother Prince Marco, the one all Magicians had been waiting and hoping for 1,000 years. The book didn't mention the Chosen One having a twin sister. Everyone assumed that Maribel was merely an afterthought, an unimportant footnote. So when adventure came to Princess Maribel, at first she didn't recognize it. On the afternoon of the day adventure found her, Maribel was practicing her sword fighting. Marco's fencing lessons with old Lucius took place out in the stable yard, but Maribel's lessons were held in a seldom visited tower. That way she wouldn't risk being caught by her parents, who insisted that for Maribel, sword fighting was improper and a waste of time. After all, they reminded her, she would never need to know how to use a weapon. But Maribel loved fencing, and Lucius seemed happy to teach her. Right now, he faced her in a fighter's stance, knees bent in a crouch, weight on his toes. Maribel danced lightly back and forth, her wooden practice sword raised as she looked for an opening. Aha! She leaped forward and thrust her sword through a gap in Lucius's leather armor. Clunk! The old knight's sword bonked her head with a jolt that made her teeth clash together. Maribel thought she would faint. She swayed, the sword dangling from her hand, lights dancing in front of her eyes. Luckily, Lucius's sword was made of wood, too. Ha! Lucius's cracked voice was triumphant. Your brother would never have fallen for that. The taunt energized Maribel. Instantly, her vision cleared and her grip tightened, and she lunged again at Lucius. He swiveled to put his shield between them, but at the last instant she dodged behind him and whacked the backs of his knees with her sword. The knight's feet flew out from under him, and he crashed to the straw-covered floor. He lay motionless on his back, his short gray beard pointing at the ceiling. Maribel lowered her sword and waited for him to get up. He didn't move, not even a little. His eyes remained shut. Lucius? No answer.